Hello and welcome back to Nerd News Today, and on this episode we are taking a look at a brand new WWE Ultimate Edition figure from Mattel. But this one is not just any old Ultimate Edition figure, this is the very first Amazon exclusive fan Takeover Ultimate Edition action figure, and kicking off this new sub-series of Ultimate Editions is none other than Jeff Hardy. This is the first time that Jeff Hardy has been given the Ultimate Edition treatment, and I think he is a superstar, definitely worth getting this type of figure. He's a very dynamic wrestler, and, to be quite fair, as good as a lot of the Mattel figures have been, there's still a few things missing that don't really give him all the dynamicness that the real Jeff Hardy has. And in terms of getting figure photography, you can do some great stuff already, but I think this Ultimate Edition is going to take it to a whole new level. So let's just jump right on into things here, and first things first, let's talk about this packaging here, and it is basically what you've seen again and again with all of the Ultimate Edition packages. It's a large rectangular style format of packaging with what I like to call the shoebox style of boxing here. And what I mean by that is how basically you can open up the figure and close it, which is really cool, very collector friendly. So if you want to take your figure out and do some photography or whatever else you're going to do with it, you can then put it right back in the box as if nothing happened, which is easier said than done with a lot of other figures out there. The only actual difference between the normal Ultimate Edition box and the Fan Takeover box would be the color. You guys can see on Stone Cold here, it's a white packaging with red highlights, which you can see right here from the side, whereas Jeff Hardy is a red package with a white highlight section, and over there the Fan Takeover logo. So basically you guys can see, in fact, a little bit better when I put them side by side. They're essentially just reversing the colors on these things. That's the only actual difference, and it's the same with the back side too. Instead of a red ribbon across it, it's a white ribbon, and instead of a white information box, it's a red information box. So, basically same difference, just reversing the colors, but that's how at least collectors can keep track of what's what a little bit more easily. So nothing drastic, still looks good, still maintains the same Ultimate Edition style boxes, which I think are pretty nice looking. You've got an enormous window display on the front as well, which lets you see all the different things that Jeff Hardy comes with, which in this case, not really a ton of stuff here, but still a pretty fair amount. I think there's actually a few kind of hidden accessories in there too that a lot of folks maybe are taking for granted, but we'll talk about that in a little while. On one side of the box, you get Jeff Hardy's name, and on the opposite side, you get a picture of his face from the time period of when this toy is based on. And on the back of the packaging, we get a shot of Jeff Hardy's figure doing a Swanton Bomb, which looks really cool, and now you guys can see what I mean about the whole dynamic look of this figure, as well as an actual photo of this Jeff Hardy in action. And this is a pretty iconic moment, because I believe this is from when he actually won the championship belt. And there's a nice little bio to go with it, which is pretty generic, to be completely honest. It doesn't really tell you much of anything about the toy or the figure when it takes place, but thankfully, because this is a Fan Takeover box, it does tell you what the different options were for the competition to get this Jeff Hardy done, and which other two figures and which other two time periods lost out. So again, the upside really though is that you know exactly when this figure takes place, and that is December 19th, 2008 from SmackDown. But this one won, and it's a pretty iconic moment, and hopefully this action figure is just as iconic. Not to be confused with a different tag team in the women's division, which is now the Inspiration, but that's a whole other episode. So without further ado, let's go ahead and unbox this Jeff Hardy and see if he's truly ultimate. Alright, and here is our Jeff Hardy figure out of the packaging. And you'll notice that today I'm not using any green screen behind our figures because Jeff has a lot of green on him, and that's going to be a real pain in the butt to key every single frame when I move this figure around. Because yeah, if I do this, for example, I have to manually change it each time, so I'm not doing that. We're not using the green screen today. So let's just jump right on into this figure here, and I want to discuss the likeness first. Does this look like Jeff Hardy? And I would say, yeah, totally. I think the sculpt itself looks amazing like Jeff Hardy, but that's if you can get past the weird face painting going on here, and that is one of the things I actually don't like. So this is a new way that Mattel's been painting their figures lately, and that's kind of this kind of soft airbrush look almost. I don't quite know what it is. It's like digital painting, maybe they're calling it, but I think they're not really hand painting stuff the same way they were previously. So you're getting a lot more of this kind of powdery look. And, you could argue that in this case with the Jeff Hardy figure, it works because it's just like, face paint, and all right, that makes sense. But then you look at his eyes, and you can barely see them in there, and they kind of just blend in and look equally powdery and distorted, and that I don't like. That's kind of a big deterrent for me from this figure here. So, again, this is kind of a toss-up, because I've noticed some figures have been like this, especially when you look at them really close up. From a distance, I don't actually mind it as much. From a distance, it kind of makes sense. And again, I think they are going for this kind of, powdery painted look, like it's worn in battle, and it's rubbing off. So that makes sense to me. But again, then I look at the alternate head sculpt, because there's a second head sculpt that comes with this figure, which also looks tremendous. Like, this is great. I love the sculpting of this as well, especially the profile, the mouth. This is totally a Jeff Hardy head right here, more so I think than the one that's even on him. They're both great heads, but to me this one's a little bit better because I can see more of his face detail. And again, you can get a good look at those eyes here. They're kind of powdery and soft. So to reiterate, it's okay that the face paint looks kind of soft and powdery because you could just say he's been wrestling and it makes sense. But when his eyes look exactly the same as the paint does on his face, that's where I have an issue, and that's what I don't like here, because you can even see in this one I'm holding in my hand, you can't really even see his pupils. It doesn't look right. It doesn't look good. Like the facial hair, though, looks actually very good. This is a real big plus. That's something they've been working on, I feel like, for years to get right. And this time I think they got it on both heads. So that part works. And same thing with the hair, too. Like, let me turn his head, in fact, so you can see, the detail on the hair is excellent. The sculpting is spot on, of course, but I really love the color detail, the yellow, the red, the crimson, the purple. That to me is really cool. There's a lot going on here. So, I mean, these are great head sculpts. It's just I wish the powdery paint job wasn't quite there, or at least in the eyes. I wish the eyes were a lot cleaner, because that would also help the paint look even more realistic and more like it is battle-worn and not just a sloppy, terrible paint job from a factory. Now, speaking of paint, let's also talk about the tattoos on Jeff Hardy here and how they look. So he has two notable ones here, which is the one on the back, which is the Hardy logo, and then this weird dragony serpenty thing here. They look fine. Nothing really to say about them. They look good. Not my favorite tattoo, especially because of where it is, so it kind of gets lost in the articulation. So they're okay, but I think what's really nice about the paint job here is his sleeves, or whatever the heck you want to call these weird sleevey things that he's been known for wearing. I think these look really nicely done. Very clean overall as well. That's a big plus. But I can't say the same for the belt. The belt is kind of lazy looking. I feel like I'm always complaining about belts, and I might be the only person doing this, but for real, I mean, look at this thing here, you guys. It's just green. It's green, and it's the same color as the rest of the outfit, and just green. And I don't think it was maybe quite that color. Perhaps it was. The photo on the packaging conveniently hides what the belt actually looked like, but I doubt it was just this one shade of green. If it was, I don't think the buckle would have been green too. I'm a stickler for these things, and I'm like, if you're going to paint his fingernails, why not paint the belt buckle and things like it? And speaking of, the fingernails are painted. You can also see a little bit more tattoo detail on this hand. Tattoo detail almost sounds like R2-D2. It's in my head. It's kind of weird. But other than that, I think the pants are really cool. Pants are accurate. I've always loved the Hardy boots that they've worn, those really interesting Hardy Boy boots. And I also appreciate this necklace around his neck here, too, this pendant with the Jeff Hardy logo. That looks really nice. So overall, I do like the look of this figure. And I'm not really a big fan of Jeff Hardy toys. Like, that's not entirely true. I like having Jeff Hardy figures, but only certain specific ones, because his outfits are so all over the place. And he is a very toyetic kind of guy, so I kind of want this one particular version. And I think this is actually a very good version, especially from this era. But I gotta go back to that head sculpt again. I feel like I'm gonna be nitpicking about this the entire review here. I just wish the eyes were more clear, because the rest of this, it's painted so nicely and so intricately, and then the head just looks like someone spit some paint all over it. So let's talk about some accessories here. And Jeff Hardy has a few, so we already mentioned the different head sculpt here. We're going to pop it out now and see how easy that comes on and off. And also you can see here that his pendant equally comes off just as easily. And I guess while I'm switching heads, I'm going to show you guys one other accessory he has, and that would be his Jeff Hardy black tank top. Very plain black tank top, but all right. Let's see how we're going to get this thing on here, because there's no Velcro on the back of this, so you pretty much have to slip it on like it's an actual piece of clothing. And I don't know how I feel about that usually. Like, I like it sometimes I don't. I feel like in the case of this material, it looks like it's going to be able to hold up to it just fine. So let's take a look. Let's go ahead and dress him up in our soft goods here. There he is with the new head on, pendant back on him as well. See, the new head, I can't quite get all the way around him. I feel like it's on him. All right, no, it is secure on him. All right. So that's how that's going to look with him wearing the tank top. I don't really particularly like how it looks on him. Maybe it's have it weird, in a weird position. I don't know. I can easily live without that tank top. It's pretty plain to begin with, so it's not like I'm losing much. And I also feel like it's not adding much, but it is cool to have for his entrance and that kind of thing. And for accuracy, too, it's good to have. In addition to that, we also have another set of hands here, and these are hands you could do the signature Jeff Hardy pose, which is nice to have. And we also have the spinner belt, which is very nice. I can never really say no to a spinner belt. I'm a big championship belt guy in general. Let's see if the spinner belt wants to move, though, because looking at this thing, it seems pretty stiff in there. I can't get it to move. So I'm thinking this spinner belt here just doesn't move, period. And if that's the case, that's kind of disappointing, because it's the spinner belt. It's meant to move. I don't know if it's me, too, though. I feel like this belt actually looks a little bit bigger than other ones in the past. It might be a little bit bigger. It could be a new sculpt for all I know, too. But I do know that that center plate is not moving, at least as far as I'm going to try forcing it. So if it does move, someone out there can let me know in the comments. But otherwise, it is a stationary spinner belt. That's weird to say. And last but not least, there's one more accessory, which we've seen throughout the video already. I mentioned that there's hidden accessories in this toy, so the pendant is one of them. And the other one here would be his butt rag. Because I don't know what else to call it, but that's the signature Jeff Hardy butt rag. And it does have a little hole in the back, so you can pop it out like that and put it back in, and that's really all it does. But it's accurate to Jeff Hardy's outfit. I'm glad it's there, because to be honest, If it wasn't there, I would be throwing a temper tantrum right now. So let's talk about articulation too, and this is an Ultimate Edition, so he's got a lot of articulation. You guys already saw the head pops off, it's ball jointed. We have a shoulder joint here, which also has a butterfly joint, allowing full range of articulation and motion. We've got the bicep joint, double jointed elbows for, again, lots of range of motion there. You guys can see there's some paint sticking out of him though, that I'm just noticing now. That's gross. I'll have to deal with that off camera, I guess. It's stuck in there deep. Wrists can bend and articulate. You already saw the torso. We'll lift up Jeff's shirt. In fact, give you a better look once again at it. But he has the nice moving torso, waist turns, and then the usual articulation that you get from other figures too. Double jointed knees, ankles, and toe articulation. So, as always, a very high amount of articulation with these Ultimate Editions. And that's really the one thing you'll never have to complain about with an Ultimate figure is how much they can move. Now let's do a few figure size comparisons too, because we have him out here. So let's bring in a few other wrestlers, and let's try someone closer to his size, Johnny Gargano. Although you can see here, Johnny's a little bit shorter than our Freddy. Well, you guys can see here, our Johnny's a little bit shorter than our Jeff. Let's bring in someone a little bit larger. How about this Legends series, Bam Bam Bigelow? Yeah, he's definitely bigger. He's probably real life, actually the size of both of them combined. That's how he looks with these two guys. Let's try a few AEW figures also just to test the size out. I think AEW figures tend to run a little bit large, but we'll find out here. No, not too bad actually. That's our Jon Moxley is looking pretty decent there. And here's Cash Wheeler. We just have this review coming out soon as well, or it might already be out now for all I know, but we are reviewing FTR from AEW Unrivaled Series 7, so that's how he's going to look next to this guy as well. So Jeff matches up with everybody. And you guys can also notice here, by the way, now the articulation on the AEW guys is pretty much very akin to what the Ultimate Editions are like. The only difference really being the butterfly joint and the toe joint. So otherwise, AEW figures, their articulation pretty damn close to an Ultimate Edition. So overall, final thoughts on this Ultimate Edition Jeff Hardy. You know, a lot of folks have been calling this like their favorite version of an Ultimate Edition figure in the line so far. I don't agree with that. I think it's pretty good though. I think it's a pretty good figure with a few points of kind of blandness here and there. One of those points would be his tank top, and it's accurate, so I can't complain too much about it. It just happens to look pretty dull and pretty boring. And the other real big thing for me though is the head sculpts. I think the head sculpts, while both being excellent sculpts, are painted really badly. Like, I just can't get over how bad they look. You know, from a distance, they're not going to look bad. And that's kind of the thing about toys and putting things on shelves in general. If you're going to display your stuff loose or whatever, it's going to be from a distance. You're not going to be like, you know, a foot away from it. You're going to be several feet away from it when you're looking at these things. So several feet away, it's okay, it's fine. But, you know, the fact that the eyes are just so bad, though, like, if those eyes were clean, it would make it look so much better. That's what kind of just really, really bugs me about it. I wish it was just a better paint job on that, because everything else on it is so clean, it just doesn't match. Articulation is good, as always. You know, no real complaints here. I think the only complaint, honestly, would be the fact that we're never going to get an Ultimate Edition Matt Hardy figure, because I don't think he's coming back to WWE anytime soon, so there will never be an iconic version of Matt in this style, too. But on the other hand, considering how AEW's figures have articulation that are pretty darn close to this anyway, you know, you won't get an Ultimate Edition, but you can get something at least similar enough that you can fake it. But Jeff is a good figure. If you can still track him down for normal prices, I'd say get him. Is he worth scalper prices? Depends how big of a Jeff Hardy fan. I know a lot of folks are big Hardy Boys fans. Me, I'm kind of in the middle of that area, but I think he looks great as a toy, and this is one of those must-haves for toy collectors. So if you can find him, get him. I know his price is going to be tough, though, so if you can't find him, don't sweat it too much. But I would say if you really, really do want to get a Jeff Hardy, probably get it sooner than later, because these Ultimate Editions tend to go up in price very, very, very quickly. And I'm sure he's already doubled, if not tripled, on eBay. So that's our look at the Fan Takeover Ultimate Edition Jeff Hardy figure from Amazon and made by Mattel. So another good Ultimate Edition figure. Not my favorite, but it's still a very, very good one, and I'm giving it a positive review all around. So until next time, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys later to the extreme.